Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Miss Kent and we're at school on a Monday morning, ready to get our week started. So today's video is a teacher tag, but the questions come from my students. So doing my teacher vlog, I did a teacher tag which came from an elementary school teacher, and I felt like the questions just didn't pertain to high school teachers. Like, what book am I going to read them? Or, you know, do I give out gifts? And I got 64 kids. So during lunch, because we eat lunch in the classroom and we have since school started, my students came up with, I know, almost 50 questions. So I've broken them down into categories. Today I'm going to do all of my childhood questions, and then we'll continue this next Monday with the rest of the questions. So let's get started. If you see me looking down, I am using my iPad mini, and I have all of my questions here on my social media planner, okay? So my first question is, when did I get my first piercing? Well, I only have two, and they're both in my ear, you know, and I got my first one at 7. And I think the funny thing about getting my piercing is that my mom told me that it was my birthday, my 7th birthday, that if I cried, she was only going to let me get the one ear and I had to leave, and she wasn't going to tolerate it. You know, I have an old school mom and she didn't play. So I get there, and my mom put me in this dress and these black patent leather shoes, and I get the first piercing, and I just start clicking my heels like Dorothy on the Wizard of Oz. And needless to say, I got my first piercing. I took the pain, and then I got my second piercing in college. I paid for it myself, and I just went to the mall. So I have 2 holes in my ear. The next question, what is my favorite toy as a child? The only toy which was that I can remember was a Cabbage Patch doll, and his name was Houston. And Houston looked like I guess a cleaner version of Chucky, because he had red hair, freckles, and I love this doll. I always just kind of like carried it under my arm. And everybody teased me about this doll because they thought he was so ugly. And they always made jokes about him. My brother, hold on.
Interruption, Ms. Glover. Could you come to the main office or dial 6606? Thank you.
Sorry, I'm at school. We haven't started yet. It's like 8:10. We're supposed to be here at 8:15. And so my brother, continuing with the story, said that he was going to iron Chucky, and we would just be standing there crying and fussing. I mean, my aunts laughed at him. So, not Chucky. Look at me calling him Chucky. It was Houston. So that was my favorite doll, was a Cabbage Patch, and my mom always said that was the only one she could find, and I got him, I think, at Christmas time. What was my first dog? Well, I'm definitely not an animal lover. I do not have a dog, but when I was a teenager, we went to a yard sale and we saw these Doberman Pinschers that they had, and my girlfriend's father got the male, the brother, and we got the female, and me and my brother was supposed to take care of this dog. They probably would have put us in jail for dog abuse by the time. I was scared to death of that dog, and we named her Mercedes. I always wanted a Mercedes, and I've never even bought a Mercedes, but as a child, that was my car. Our dog's name was Mercedes. Sorry, y'all know my lights go out, so you have to wave for them to come back on. I don't know. Hold on. I guess I'm not moving around enough. So, my mom, when my brother was home, my brother did everything for the dog, but he wasn't home this particular day, or a lot of days, especially in the summertime when he was out playing with his friends, and she was like, that dog's gonna die out there without no water. Go get that dog some water. So we had like a fence, and I'll be trying with the water hose to to be putting the water in the bowl will be just bouncing around. You know you can't take a water hose to put water in no bowl over no fence. And Mercedes just had so much energy. It was like she would be pulling me around the neighborhood. I was scared to death. So that was my experience with a dog. Never had another one, and I did not allow my children to have a dog. Next question. How was my childhood? I was a latchkey kid at 5, so I was able to come home, do what I was supposed to do. By the time we got to the 4th grade, we moved to Atlanta, and they were having, I said Atlanta, and they were in the middle of the childhood murders, and they were murdering little boys. So my mom, probably from a small town, didn't let us out of her sight. We couldn't go outside. We didn't trick or treat. We didn't do anything. And I think she just kind of held on to that. So I was really sheltered as a child. And anything we did with our mom and dad. I mean, my dad went to the basketball games. We went to church. My mom was the youth director. So whatever activities, she didn't let me hang out with people. I couldn't ride in the car with people. I had to take the bus to high school. I couldn't ride with my friends. It was really sheltered is the best word I can use. What was my first spanking? Probably when I could walk. My mom believed in spanking. I think the funniest thing I remember about getting spanking is I used to ask my mom for my spanking. So let me explain. My mom would get mad at me for doing something, and she was like, go to your room, I'm going to spank you. Well, my mom would leave me in there for hours, right? And she said she left me in there because she didn't want to hurt me. So she wanted to wait till she calmed down to spank me. Well, I wanted to come out my room, so I would always go to her door and say, Mom, could I get my spanking now? And that would just throw her over the top to send me back. She said, who asked for a spanking? Man, I could take the pain. She thought I was a wimp. I didn't think I was. I'd rather take the beating and let's get it over with. And if you ask me that I want a spanking or a punishment, I want the spanking every time. That pain gonna last temporarily. Punishment, sit up in a room, is torture. So yes. And did I spank my children? Of course I did. But I didn't make them wait hours. I probably should have, because I spanked them while I was mad. But only my oldest got a lot of spankings. My other two, they didn't do much. What is my favorite fast food is the next question. I don't eat fast food anymore. I don't eat at McDonald's, Burger King. I try not to eat. I mean, I can't even remember except maybe a fish fillet that I've gotten in the last year from McDonald's. But as a child, and this is going to answer 2 questions. My first job was at McDonald's. My parents did not let me work until I was 16. I could only work on the weekends unless it was summertime. School was very important, and they told me they weren't going to allow me to work during the school day, but I think they didn't want to take me either. And so I loved a Big Mac at McDonald's. So they gave us free lunch when you worked on the weekends or any shift. And so I always got a Big Mac and fries. And then as I got older, the double cheeseburger became my favorite. But now that stuff tastes disgusting. Did I eat school lunch? Yes, I did. Grew up in Georgia. I don't remember elementary and middle school, but in high school we had vanilla milkshakes. We probably had chocolate, but I had almost a vanilla milkshake every day with some fries. Our school lunch was not that bad at Sprayberry High School in Marietta, Georgia. Was I popular in high school? So that's a tricky question because I went to a majority white school, so it was 500 students in my senior class and 20 of us was black. So they knew me, but I don't think I was as popular throughout the school with 500 students being in our senior class. And that wasn't important to me, but our little group, we were cool. And we were known as a group because it was just 20 blacks in our senior class. Have I ever been in a fight? Probably in my elementary and middle school years, and I fought mostly boys. That sounds weird, right? I'm 5'8", and I probably was this tall in the 8th grade, and so they always picked on my little brother. probably only been in 2 fights that had to do with me, and the rest were all for Melvin, my brother that's a year younger than me. They picked on him, they called him names, and I would stand there, and they was like, I'm not trying to fight you. And I was like, well, you ain't fighting my brother. And that's how it's going to be. And I would let him run home. And that's when we was in elementary school. And then by the time we got to middle and high school, we didn't have confrontations. I tried to stay away from that kind of stuff. Not my thing. My favorite subject, and did I ever cheat on a test? So, my favorite subject, of course, is math, and that's what I teach. I liked math because there was a right and a wrong answer, okay? And so there was not, I guess it wasn't subjective to the teacher's opinion as I felt reading and writing, not reading, but writing was. And did I ever cheat on a test? I probably cheated on a test in, I hate to say this, 2nd grade, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm not a good speller, but spelling was always so hard for me. I wish I had been my own teacher to teach me tricks and how to study, but I used to take a little sheet and try to put it between my legs. It never worked. I still didn't do well. I was scared to death, so I'm gonna say no, and no, I never really got to look at it, but I would try to cheat to get them spelling words because I was on honor roll and didn't have the C in spelling. Worst grade I ever got? I think my worst grade I ever got was in college because I went to reading and writing about literature. I think I took that class like 3 times. Now, granted, I was not giving it my all, okay? The first time I was late. I wasn't going to class, so I dropped it. And a good thing about college, you can drop classes before you get a bad grade. The second time I went, I was determined. Pansy Jackson, I think that's her name. She was the English teacher. So the class is at 8 o'clock in the morning. I get there at 8 o'clock. She slams the door in my face. I'm like, what? She's like 5 minutes early is late to her class. Let me say that again. 5 minutes early is late. You better get there before 5 minutes to 8 because she wants you in your seat ready to start. Next day, I'm there like 10 minutes before 8. I'm sitting in there and I'm getting the lesson and I'm going through everything. There go that light again. We're just going to leave it off. It shouldn't be that bad. When I tell you I got the test and I didn't know nothing on that test and I thought I was ready, I went straight to the admissions office, dropped that class again. So I dropped out of school when I was a senior in college. And when I went back, we had the internet, we had more resources, and I took the class seriously. I was looking up because a lot of the questions like, what is the author trying to say? And I'd be like, I don't know, 2 plus 2 is 4. I know that sounds crazy, but that's how I felt. But I learned to understand what the author was trying to say, and I actually got an A in the class. I think that was like the best grade I probably could have earned for something that I struggled so hard to do. When did I get the sex talk from my mom? Probably since I could walk. I don't know. My mom always talked about sex, and I remember when I was in the 6th grade, we had to take sex ed, and I failed. And I remember coming home talking, Mom, I failed sex ed. And she was like, how you failed sex ed? And I told you everything. Them vocabulary words. I didn't know about no fallopian tubes and all this stuff. It was too much for a 6th grader. Vocabulary for me was just horrible. And so she just was so mad because she had told me everything about sex. But what she told me and what you had to learn scientifically was not the same. So I think my mom just shook her head at me, but she should have helped me with them vocabulary words. I didn't know what they meant. Did I have a high school relationship? No, I don't think I had a boyfriend in high school. I had some guys I talked to, but that guy that you just, oh, that's my boyfriend. No, I had one guy that from my hometown. Like I said, we moved to Atlanta when I was in the 4th grade. He used to write me beautiful letters. He really liked me a lot, but my parents just did not allow, like when I would go home, that he could come over and visit, but she wouldn't let me go anywhere with him. My aunt used to cry and beg and say, she's 16. My parents were like, we don't care. And so I never really went on a date. I think prom, I went with one of my friends from high school, and I had to be home at 12 or 1 o'clock, and they were all hanging out later. My mom and dad was like, well, you're not going to be doing that unless we talk to the parents. And I didn't want her talking to the parents. So, like, I didn't want to do that. I was always like, I didn't want to be treated like that. So I just would stay at home and make up excuses why I wasn't hanging out with everybody. And then, I mean, even graduation night, my parents gave me a curfew. So that leads me to my last question, which was my first love. And I don't know if you can have a first love if you ain't together. I don't know if it's real love or what it was, but my first love is from my hometown. We knew each other when we was younger. We played together. I moved away. And when we hooked back up, I was 21 years old, and it was like the best summer ever. But when I went back to college, he cheated on me. So I married somebody else. He married the girl that he cheated on me with, and we're both divorced and never remarried. So that's it, guys. I hope I answered your questions. To my students, thank you. This was fun. It was great reminiscing. Catch next week's video where I will answer more questions. You should hear some of the things that my students ask me. Oh my goodness. I'm still praying whether I'm going to answer some of these questions. But today wasn't too bad. I had fun. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one. And I'll talk to you all soon.